Hey guys, we all have that little drawer where we keep little odds and ends, small tools, nuts, bolts, things like that. And I want to show a couple of things you can put into that drawer that'll make your life a lot easier and help you with some very typical household problems that might pop up. Now, all this stuff's pretty inexpensive, nothing crazy. You can get it all at like a Home Depot or a Lowe's or Harbor Freight. So just little things just to help you out. These are things I seem to use a lot. The first being this super lube. This stuff just works fantastic. I've used this on all different kinds of things around the house. It just seems to be like, it just seems to fix about anything. And plus when you have things that, are squeaky or there's just something going on there, maybe you got some pliers that are a little rusted up, this thing can really make a world of difference with it. And plus I use it a lot when it comes to coating some of my tools in the wintertime to make sure they don't get rusty. Stuff like that. You get it at Harbor Freight, it's like $3. Really, really an important thing. I've gone through probably half this tube already, and just like the couple of months I had it. Next is utility knives. It seems to be just, everybody seems to have one or two of these, but you can never find them. They end up in the bottom of your toolbox, in the trunk of your car. It's always good to have a good utility knife or two that you can keep around. I really like this Stanley one. I think this one's kind of awesome because it's retractable. If I'm doing a job, I can just clip it onto my belt loop or something like that and forget about it. And then I know it's right there and handy. And plus I do like that whole retractable thing. Takes the standard blades for replacement. So really cool. If you're old school, these old Stanleys are really cool as well. These are, you can buy them old at like yard sales, or you can get them new. They still make this model actually. They come with that neat little blade guard, which is pretty awesome. And inside you can store extra blades. These are pretty cool. If you're looking for like a little more of a robust utility knife. But once again, utility knife is something you're going to use a lot. It seems like you're always cutting things, doing things. Just very important thing to have. And it is a thing that gets lost very easily. So having a couple extras never can hurt. This is a really neat tool that I use a lot. This is a small reversible screwdriver bit set. It's got a Phillips head and a flat head on both sides, and they're all little sizes, so these are perfect for small toys like battery compartments, things like that. This thing comes in very handy. I think I got this at Home Depot, maybe. Home Depot is probably in like the cheap tools, like at the bottom where they put like the cheap no-name tools. It's like $2 maybe. Really handy. I've used this a lot from, like I said, like I got a little kid. We're always changing batteries and toys and things like that. This thing comes in really handy because you do have those couple different sizes right on hand. I probably use this at least once or twice a week. In fact, my wife often will be like, "Where's that black screwdriver?" Because she knows it's just the perfect size for battery compartments and toys. Next, a little impact driver. These things are a neat little invention, and you don't see them much nowadays. People really don't own them. They're not around much. How this works is you basically put the screwdriver bit of your choice into here. It's got the little chuck for it, and you would put that over your thing and hit it with a hammer. And it basically works the same way an impact driver does, in that it applies a strong sideways torque to the pulsing torque to it to loosen up a screw that might be frozen or whatever. So I tend to use this a lot. Old house here, really old house, like 1870s old. So lots of times, when things like hinges and all that need to be replaced, the screws can be pretty gummed up with other people's bad repair jobs, and people put glue because people do crazy things, and this can be really, really helpful. You don't see these used very often anymore because people do have cordless impact drivers and all that. So it's a very handy tool, and I always use it whenever I have a stubborn screw that just won't come loose. Rather than strip it out, this thing will do good. Just make sure you have the right size bit. 90-degree screwdriver. Not only is this really good for getting into tight spaces, but it also has that little thumb wheel so you can do stuff by hand. I really like this. These are this is the Harbor Freight version. It's reversible. which is awesome. Really cool little tool. Use it a lot. And plus, you know, when you're in a tight little spot, you can really screw and unscrew things in a hurry because of that thumb screw. I know Craftsman makes one, Home Depot makes one, pretty much everybody makes one of these. They're pretty cheap, usually $5 or $6. Very handy little guy. Adapters to put your sockets onto your drill. That's very good, especially when you're putting together furniture and things like that. Sometimes they'll use like a million little tiny bolts. Having this so you can put sockets onto your drill, very handy. Usually you can get them in the 1/2 inch, 3/8, and the 1/4 inch as a kit. These are impact rated, so they were like $10, but the normal cheapos can be $3 or $4 at Harbor Freight. Really good handy thing to have, especially when you have, like I said, you got like you're putting together something and it's got like 20 little bolts. It can make the job a lot easier if you don't have to do it by hand by chucking those up in the drill. Next is a flexible, well, broken, flexible bit driver. This thing is flexible, so you can get into weird and tight angles. Use this a lot as well, especially when you're hanging things. You know, maybe you're hanging things up in a closet, something like that, trying to put shelves in. You're at a weird angle. These can really be helpful for screwing things in, especially like corner shelves and things like that. They give you that little bit of extra clearance plus that flexibility to really get the torque in there. Of course, needle nose pliers. Is there really anything that could be any more useful than these? Very handy from cutting and clipping wires, grabbing a hold of things, putting things together. Once again, you know, in the world of a toddler, lots of small toys with small battery compartments and small pieces and all that jazz. This is just something that I use very, very frequently. This is a cheapo. I actually think I got this at like a bait store and have been using it for years. You know, it's one of those like super stainless. Nothing fantastic about it, but it just ended up in the junk drawer, and you know, it's one of those things that gets used very, very frequently. And last but not least is one of these sharpening, diamond sharpening rods. I find this to be a really good junk drawer thing because it seems like you're always maybe working on something or doing something and the knife you're using maybe gets dull. This is something you just boom, 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 throw a real quick edge back onto it, and it is diamond, so it does work with stainless steels and harder steels. So overall, a nice little thing just to have laying around. I think this is it might be a Smith's brand. It could be like an unbranded one, but I think I paid maybe $6 for it. Very handy little thing, like I said, when you're doing some kind of job and you just, you know, your knife just gets too dull to do what you're doing, you can just take a minute and zap this. You don't have to pull out the sharpening stones and all that jazz. So just a little pocket sharpener, very handy thing for the old junk drawer. So there you go, guys. Just a couple of real simple things that you know, kind of get overlooked, and it's very easy to give yourself a lot of capabilities for fixing things around the house with just a few small little tools. You know, of course, you're always going to have the normal things, you know, screwdrivers, a hammer, all that jazz, but these are little things people tend to forget or not notice, and pretty much all of these are something you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's or Harbor Freight, sometimes even dollar stores if you're, you know, 'cause these aren't heavy duty tools, guys. These aren't something that your life's going to depend on. These are something just for those little home projects. So very simple, very easy, very inexpensive. Nothing here probably more than $10 on the table.